Hello students, you are welcome to lecture series on ACT 303 Corporate Accounting Study Session 2. We'll be treating shares and redemption of shares. Introduction. In this study session, you will be introduced to the definition of shares and the types of shares. You will also be introduced to the issue of shares and forfeiture of issued shares. Lastly, you will be introduced to the redemption of preference shares. Learning outcomes for this study session. When you have studied this session, you should be able to define shares and the types of shares, discuss the issue of shares, discuss the forfeiture of issued shares, explain the term redemption of preference shares. Meaning of shares. A share has been defined by the companies and allied matters as amount of interest in the capital of the company, or a share is a unit of account for various investments, or share is a portion of the value of a company or mutual fund. A company can issue two types of shares: equity and preference. Equity shares, which simply means that part of the share capital which gives the owner interest in the dividend and ownership of the company. Equity shares are also called an ordinary shares. Preference shares. Preference shares are those shares which fulfill both the following two conditions. 1. They carry preferential rights in respect of dividend at a fixed rate. 2. They also carry preferential rights in regard to payment of capital unwinding of the company. Issues of shares is the process whereby companies pass on new shares to shareholders who may themselves be new or existing shareholders. Companies can issue shares to both individuals and corporate bodies. Procedure for issue of shares. Issue of prospectus. Whenever shares are to be issued to the public, the company must issue a prospectus. Prospectus means an open invitation to the public to take up the shares of the company. Thus, a private company need not issue prospectus. Even a public company issuing its shares privately need not issue a prospectus. Application of shares. A person intending to subscribe to the share capital of a company has to submit an application for shares in the prescribed form to the company along with the application money before the last date of the subscription mentioned in the prospectus. Allotment of shares. After the last date of the receipt of application is over, the directors proceed with the allotment work. However, a company cannot allot the shares unless the minimum subscription amount mentioned in the prospectus is collected within a stipulated period. Calls on shares. The remaining amount of shares may be collected in installments as laid down in the prospectus. Such installments are called calls on shares. They may be termed as allotment amount, first call, second call, etc. Calls in arrears. Some shareholders may not pay the money due from them. The outstanding amount is transferred to an account called as calls in arrears account. The balance of calls in arrears account is deducted from the called up capital in the balance sheet. Calls in advance. According to Section 92 of the Companies Act, a company may, if so authorized by its articles, accept from a shareholder either the whole or part of the amount remaining unpaid on any shares held by them as calls in advance. No dividend is paid on such calls in advance. However, interest has to be paid on such costs in advance. Forfeiture of shares. When a shareholder is deprived of his or her membership due to non-payment of costs, it is known as forfeiture of shares. The result of forfeiture of shares is 1. Cancellation of membership of the shareholder. 2. Reduction of issued share capital of the company. Redemption of redeemable preference share. Redemption is the process of repaying an obligation at predetermined amount. The redeemable preference shares are issued on the terms that the shareholders will be repaid the amount which they invested at future date. Below are the conditions for redemption of share. Before going to redeem the preference shares as per the Companies and Allied Matters Act, a company should follow the conditions stated below. 1. There must be a provision in the Articles of Association regarding the redemption of preference shares. 2. The redeemable preference shares must be fully paid up. If there is any partly paid share, it should be converted into fully paid shares before redemption. 3. The redeemable preference shareholder should be paid out of undistributed and distributable profit or out of fresh issue of shares for the purpose of redemption. 4. If the shares are redeemed at a premium, it should be provided out of security premium or profit and loss account or general reserve account. 5. The proceeds from fresh issue of debentures cannot be utilized for redemption. 6. The amount of capital reserve cannot be used for redemption of preference shares. 7. If the shares are redeemed out of undistributed profit, the nominal value of share capital so redeemed should be transferred to capital redemption reserve account. This is also known as capitalization profit. Thanks for listening.